Segment 3, Gold and Black Live with Brian Newbert, a traveling man, so to speak. He is all the time anyway, but he's up at Chicago on Thursday for Big Ten Media Day. We'll talk a little bit about that and the state of Purdue basketball as the Boilermakers have Fan Day next weekend. Or I think if the calendar is right, in 2 weeks from today, that exhibition game, Brian, will be down in Lexington, Kentucky, when Purdue takes on Kentucky for that 6 p.m. start. In the start of this basketball season. Brian, I mean, media days are a thing, so to speak. You have been dealing with them for years. I think from my perspective, it's great to still be able to connect with the Rob Hummels of the world and get you're close enough with the players and Coach Matt Painter. But was there anything that stood out for you yesterday, having covered all these, that made media day good or bad, besides your cracked windshield on the way home?
Yeah, no, it's it's kind of different for me because I cover the most accessible, transparent program probably in college basketball. So my access is extraordinary relative to what some of my peers deal with at their places. So when people go up there to cover schools that don't have the same access, this is what they get basically in the preseason. So it's much more important for other markets than it is for me, which isn't to say it's not important. It's anytime the people I cover are sitting in front of microphones and opening their mouth, it's our obligation to be there. But the reality is that a lot of the stuff that other schools are kind of writing about, other media markets are writing about now, I wrote about in like April. So there's not a whole lot of stuff new to me. I don't say that to sound like an egomaniac.
No, I understood.
But it's, people ask what was new for Media Day. Well, not really a whole lot of anything. A lot of the questions you'd ask in this little frame of time, who's going to redshirt, who's your starting lineup, stuff like that, he's not ready to answer because he hasn't made those decisions yet. So as long as a team is healthy, there's really there's not a whole lot of like breaking hot button news to really pursue at these things. You kind of want to know what's going on in practice. And when I'm not at practice, sometimes you got to take people's word for it. But a couple of the things that I've been kind of hammering away on are like defensive rebounding's relationship with offense and how much that can make Purdue better this year. Oscar Clough being the solution, in my opinion, and Daniel Jacobson's return from injury, in my opinion, being the solution to more problems than people even realize from last year's team. I think what Purdue does from a lineups perspective with Trey Kaufman-Renn playing next to a true center again, they were preparing to do this last year. So It's not like this is Purdue reinventing basketball here. But not just that, but when Trey Kaufman-Renn's out of the game, they have two shooters who come in behind him at the four. How do things change? Who do they go to first? Is it Jack Benner or Liam Murphy? They're both more perimeter guys than interior guys. So which one is option A and which one's option B, if there even is such a thing? I asked Matt Painter and Braden Smith alike about whether they want to trim down his minutes a little bit. I know for a fact that was a cause for some introspection within the program this offseason, some analytical study. I got resounding no's. So, okay then. So there really wasn't anything breaking. Matt Painter is kind of becoming that guy that his wisdom, his experience in college basketball, things like that, he becomes kind of that go-to guy for issue stories, kind of what Tom Izzo's always been. I think it's now Izzo and Painter as kind of the faces and voices of the league. So he gets a lot of questions about a lot of the topics of the day, like the 5-and-5 eligibility stuff, NIL, transfer portal, all of the stuff on your pressing issue bingo card.
Yeah.
So it is interesting to hear him talk about college basketball. For a lot of people, I've heard everything he has to say, probably multiple times. But it is still interesting to kind of hear him pontificate about the state of college basketball and things like that. And that's a big part of what these events are about now. It's about issue stories, national level type, urgent matters, Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti did speak as well. I asked him about what I don't have the quote because my tape recorder or my audio recorder on my phone short circuited their speaker apparently and got terrible feedback. I almost killed the Big Ten commissioner, or
That's news.
at least blew out his eardrums. He said that what they learned from year one of Big Ten scheduling with the West Coast and all these media partners, they need more data to really come up with the best way to figure out how to do this. But they're really dedicating resources in the constant study platforms that can analytically help them crunch numbers on outcomes that come from short turnarounds and east to west travel, Midwest to West travel, things like that. And I still think that's a pretty big deal for this conference, is making sure that no one's at a competitive advantage because this, or a competitive disadvantage because this conference is now coast to coast.
Yeah, huge challenge there, but you're right. You only have 1 year of data, and you need I don't know if you need ChatGPT. You need somebody to be able to put the pieces of that puzzle together, because it is a confusing or challenging one. The 5 for 5 rule, just for our listeners and readers that may not know, explain what that is. I know it's been a topic for a little bit, but it is a hot button issue right now.
Yeah, so fearing lawsuits, I'm sure the NCAA has been discussing the possibility of just changing the 4 years to play over 5 years to just 5 years period. So you'd be able to play 5 years. Now, if somebody wants to use that first year as a de facto redshirt year, great, but you could still play and still have 5 years. Matt Painter's not for it. But he's willing to listen, which is what sets him apart from a lot of his peers. A lot of their approaches are generally what's best for me. That's what I want for college basketball. Like Brad Underwood, all due respect to Brad Underwood, is out there beating the drum about this. Not because he thinks it's best for college basketball, but because he wants his team now. He wants all these Europeans he brought in this year for 1 year to have a second year. At Illinois. I might be misrepresenting that a little bit because I can't remember the specifics of all of their guys. But for example, and this is sheerly hypothetical, okay, because I don't know if any of these guys would exercise this. If this passed immediately, which I doubt it would, from what I've always heard, this is a next few years type of thing and not a thing right now. If this passed today and became effective tomorrow, looking at Purdue, what would happen is you would say Fletcher Loyer, Braden Smith, other fourth-year seniors, you can come back if you want. Trey Kaufman-Renn, you can't because you redshirted. This was already your 5 years. I don't know why in the world, and it's the NCAA, so who the hell knows? I don't know why you wouldn't, if you adopt this, you wouldn't just say starting in 2025 with incoming freshmen. This is the deal. Because now all of a sudden you're going to have more just 26 to 27-year-olds all over college basketball. You saw what the COVID year did. Completely illogical decision the NCAA made for cheap, court of public opinion points to look sensitive to the situation going around the pandemic. When in reality, 68 teams didn't get to play in an NCAA tournament. So thousands of players got the option to have a whole other year of eligibility. Right on top of the transfer portal, right on top of NIL. It just made no sense. Life's hard, guys. Sometimes you get dealt bad breaks. That's how it should have been with the COVID year. But that's an entirely different topic here. I'm sure that if they adopted it right now, 25 is going to get this. How come I don't get this? They just paid out billions of dollars in NIL back pay for that reason. It's effective for future people, but not for people who are right now in college basketball. So I'm sure if it passes, they need to involve current athletes somehow, but it would just be a mess. But The NCAA has never been averse to creating messes.
Yeah, no doubt. And it is an interesting storyline, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. It makes to put it in now and allow the fourth year guys to fifth year. It doesn't seem to make sense. But
well, if I could add something real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
The part of this is it concerns the basketball that makes absolutely no sense. Coaches will tell you, but common sense will tell you, why can you play in games in football and redshirt, but you can't play in games in basketball and redshirt? That is absolutely completely illogical. Utter nonsense. They should start there. Just change that, right? And if your freshman can play in 20% or some such, no, that's bad math. That's what I get for trying to do math off the top of my head.
20% would be 6 games, roughly 6
Let's
games.
just say if your freshman can play in a few games, that's worthwhile, you know.
Yeah.
Why coaches aren't just jumping up and down on the podiums right now, clapping their hands in the air, taking their shirts off in Eric Musselman's case over this change, I have no idea.
Yeah. And that change is effective now, right? That you can do.
No, there is no.
There is no change on
the red shirt year in basketball has always been
right.
One game
done. Okay, that's what I'm.
In football, you can play. I can't remember what
you can play now and end up to in the first
X number of snaps in the
half,
first percentage of the season.
Half of the season.
But why is football different than basketball? It doesn't make any sense.
It does not. All right. One thing that happens at media days, like you said, you get a chance to. There's all kinds of polls that come out and discussions with the media discussing with other media outside of that. One thing that came out yesterday, and you kind of alluded to just the fact that what Matt Painter is in the college basketball world. It was Gary Parrish or somebody from CBS had a poll, maybe not from yesterday, but said that Matt Painter won the poll of being the player, the coach, at least supposed to, if you were. This is a poll of college coaches. If you had a son, who would you like him to play for? And Matt Painter won that 30% over Izzo. I think it was Tom Izzo was second at 16. Just speak to Matt Painter's kind of not just how he is. You've talked about how he is to deal with, but just his status as an elder statesman, but also just kind of maybe a bastion, if that's the right word, of kind of how you're supposed to do this in this crazy world. Is that a fair way to look at him? At
like I think that the best, as I wrote last night, and I'd urge people to go read this, even though I'm just going to say it verbatim right now, so kind of redundant. They say in recruiting sometimes that your best recruiters are your players, because I don't know why I'm fooling around with this Washington credential. That's
all right.
Your best players are often your best recruiters, and if recruits are paying attention to what Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Moran were saying at that podium yesterday, Purdue ought to be sending that video that I probably sustained a hairline fracture in my foot standing there recording yesterday. They should be sending that to all their recruits, because for many, many years, players in college basketball have been talking about how their place is a family and they love their coach and they wouldn't want to leave. A lot of those players were getting paid when they weren't supposed to be getting paid. Yeah. Now, much has been made of Purdue's players could make more somewhere else. And I think it's a very nihilistic view that like national media take about how it's all about money. It's not. This is still up to these guys where they want to go to college and who they want to play for, what teammates they want to be with. And it's just really jaded and really cold-hearted to look at it like this is just business. Business is part of it, yes, but business is part of it. And financially, could they be doing better somewhere else? Sure. but at what cost? Happiness matters, right? Having a coach who's been honest with you matters. Liking your teammates matters. When you have those guys up at that microphone talking about how they look forward to coming to practice, whereas it's work for other players they know who they talk to at their school, and it's not new. You saw the thing that CBS did with their confidential coaches thing. That should surprise no one. And I've kind of talked about for years how, Matt Painter spent his whole career being straightforward and upfront and honest with the people, and that stuff's starting to come to bear. It's starting to pay off. And in a world now where you have to deal with agents to get recruits, it's not right. It's not wrong. It just is. That's the deal now. You have to. I wrote before about Caleb Swanigan and how they got him. Well, 20 years of being honest with the people around Caleb Swanigan, and everything you said might happen in certain situations actually happening and giving you credibility. That's what got that done. And now you have a few agents out there with a lot of influence who, are advocates for Purdue because they know their guys will be taken care of, not financially but personally. And then the players, Braden Smith got tampered with after his freshman year. Braden Smith got tampered with after his sophomore year. Braden Smith got tampered with during his junior year. The people doing the tampering were in that room yesterday too, or at least the people who coached the programs who were doing it were in that room yesterday. And as far as I know, Braden Smith's response after his freshman year was, as long as Matt Painter said Purdue, so am I. And I don't think anything's ever changed. I mean, it kind of is what it is now. It's a pretty nasty business. But, sometimes nice guys do win. And Purdue has been led by a guy who does right by basically everybody and doesn't make a lot of enemies, doesn't make any enemies. And I've always thought he's kind of the guy that makes the dirty coaches feel bad about themselves because he's kind of what they want to be. In their heart of hearts. That's probably a hot take right there. But, his time has come. Like if you paid close attention, like I obviously did back in his first 10, 12 years at Purdue, you kind of saw this coming. It was just a matter of waiting for that moment to come. And I think that moment's here. People want to play for this guy. People want to stay at Purdue because of this guy. He's recruiting the sort of guys that people want to play with. And it's created this really great, really stable situation.
Last question for you. You were interviewed by Fletcher Loyer yesterday. He did a piece with some of the folks, the four top folks. I'm biased. You're the top guy, but with yourself and Nathan Baird and I think John Fanta and Rob Hummel. He had some fun with that. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, it's on our site in our headlines today. But what was that like? And Fletcher looked comfortable doing that. You look comfortable answering some good answers there. But that's part of the fun of media day, to be able to do things like that.
I haven't watched it yet. I don't know what they're.
I know it's unfair to say. I'm just telling you.
I don't know what they published and what they didn't. So hopefully I didn't say anything ridiculous.
No. He talked to you about, I think, your favorite media food, and I think they ran the clip. But you look good, and that part of it was good. But that is a part of the function of those guys. I mean, it is interesting with those seniors that they seem to get along. They seem to they all have strong personalities. They're interesting people, and that, at least from your perspective, has to make it at least these type of events. Even though you've known these guys, watched these guys for 6-7 years now in one form or another. Now they're at their last rodeo with this respect to Media Day. They showed well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really here to be anybody's buddy, but you can have adult conversations sometimes with Purdue's players. You can joke around sometimes with Purdue's players, and one of my mechanisms for trying to get people to talk to me in an honest manner is to try to disarm them with humor.
Yeah,
and I think that Purdue has the sort of guys that are amenable to that kind of thing.
They have
again,
humor, yeah.
You can have adult conversations with Purdue's players. You can't do that with players everywhere else. Not to belittle them, but they don't really. They're not. They live in a different world. They're protected. They're in their little basketball bubble. Their SID departments build up these impenetrable walls between media and players and coaches, and it's just very different at Purdue. There is a very different media relationship at Purdue because they're so accessible, they're so transparent. I was thinking about this a few years back: is how many times has Matt Painter lied to me in my career? I don't think he ever has. I mean, lying is relative. Sometimes there are things you just leave unsaid, but all these other guys, all of my contemporaries, just they're there to get lied to.
Yeah.
They're there to get kept at a distance, and it's very different at Purdue, and I don't take it for granted.
Yeah, and you shouldn't. All right, Brian, we'll look forward to your work throughout the course of the 25-26 season. And we'll also, obviously, Brian will be talking Purdue football tomorrow night with the gang after the Minnesota game as well. So, Brian, have a good rest of your day. And I always say get some rest, but you don't ever follow my direction when it comes to that. But I appreciate all your efforts. Great stuff from Chicago yesterday.
Thanks, Alan.
All right. We will remove Brian from the thing and say thank you to our friends at WLFI and TJ and Steve Clark and Chris Collar, Cody Millen for helping make this happen again today as part of Golden Black Live. And of course, too, we want to thank our guest, Tom Dienhart. He's a staff member, colleague of Segment 1, and Chad Q. Brown. Always interesting. We appreciate them. Next week for Golden Black Live, Matt Painter will be our guest. We'll look forward to that as Matt, as Brian is well articulated, has an ability to conduct a good interview. We'll look forward to that too very much. So have a great week, everybody. Thanks again. Thanks to our sponsors, Triple X on the hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929. Carrie and Greg Erzman, great friends of goldenblack.com. Another great friend, Trent Johnson. Trent is my agent.com. We appreciate them as well. Have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks for taking the time to watch and enjoy. Hopefully you enjoyed, I should say, Golden Black Live, and we'll see you